Hello, everyone. This is JC Barnett. People that I have encountered in my life and have known on a personal level doesn't mean that I necessarily talk to them every day, doesn't mean that they're super close, but just people that throughout my lifetime have made a tremendous impact to me. I wanted to bring to the forefront. That does something for me that touches my heart in a special way, to just be able to engage with these individuals, but not only for myself, but to give people in the community an understanding of just who these people are. And if they ever have a chance to come across these individuals, say, hey, I heard you on whatever social media platform, I heard the interview, and I just had to come up and shake your hand. And Mr. Kevin Summers is one of those individuals for me. He's been a special person in my life. I appreciate every opportunity to talk with him and speak with him. We've engaged on a number of different levels, and I just feel moved to introduce you guys to him today. If anybody doesn't know this man, I mean, he's been in had his hand in a number of different things, has had a number of irons in the fire. So it's very unlikely that you haven't at least heard his name. So how are you doing today, sir?
Doing good, JC. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and collaborate with you on a daily basis out here at IUK that we have the pleasure to work for. So.
Yeah, I truly appreciate that myself. We'll kind of get into the meat of things here. When it comes to giving people a different perspective of law enforcement, and you can give me some more background about what your career has looked like here in just a moment, but when it comes to giving people a different perspective of law enforcement and just all of the different things as far as emotions and just skill sets that go into being a good officer, maybe you can give us some insights as to what's that has looked like for you.
Well, thank you. I think just being a good listener in life, and then the career path as being a police officer has enabled me to engage several people in our community and being involved in our local schools, being a liaison officer there. But I think in general, what is really giving me that tool is the ability to listen and then being able to communicate back and try the enforcement element of what we're trying to do to protect our community. But I've always tried to look at the enforcement secondary to just trying to be a compassionate person and care about people.
Yeah.
We've all made our fair share of mistakes early in life, and it's that maturity that brings us out, and good people in our life also that help to mold us. Yeah. But I think just being as an officer and being out, especially on the streets and dealing with so many folks, just having that compassion and care for people. And that's just been embedded in me through my upbringing and raising, through my parents, to be able to care about people.
Yeah. And I know you've been pretty much a lifelong resident of Kokomo, Indiana. What was that upbringing for you? What side of this town did you come up on?
Being raised up in the northern sector of Kokomo, it was a melting pot of a lot of folks, sometimes lower income. One parent back in my era, being raised in the early 60s, that dad was the only one working. Yeah. And then mom started working, not up until about the early 70s. So, I had that solid foundation of mom being at home to help raise the kids. But I contributed a lot of my ability to who I am today is passed on through my parents through a faith-based, being a Christian home.
Yeah.
And that foundation to give us, to look to that higher, calling, and being able to tap into that and know who you are because of whom you've, been part of.
Exactly. Yeah. That, it's a reoccurring theme that it seems like most people that I engage with, that I have a chance to speak with on a regular basis, one of our common interests is our faith.
Yep, you bet.
And to be able to just talk about how the Lord has impacted our lives from an individual standpoint, it's very meaningful. and it gives you just greater insight as to how we go about our day to day, how we engage with people, and just how we prosper in life. But from a career standpoint, how long did you serve as a police officer, and still currently?
Yes. Started out, was hired in 1997 through the Kokomo Police Department. Was on patrol for a few years, and then I had the fortunate blessing to then have the opportunity to go in Kokomo schools, and also be able to teach the DARE program locally. So that's where I've engaged a lot of those students and kiddos to now where I'm dealing with some of the kids that we've had through there. So retired out of Kokomo Police Department with almost 21 years back in 18. Thought I might want to go in a retirement mode there. However, a couple of years later, I had a good friend, Chief Remender at IUK, that was reaching out and needed additional officers, and he knew my commitment to community policing and community engagement, which I love to do through different outreaches. And so I would come on board in 2020 and currently still here in 2024.
It's awesome. I've loved to see you around campus. I know, the person that I've known all throughout the years, because I met you more so, me and Brittany were classmates. Sure. We graduated same class of 2004 from Kokomo High School. And I met you early in my high school days, and instantly I gained this understanding of you, of a person that was very approachable. I knew that you were a police officer. I knew that you were somebody who people respected. Although I didn't know you very well, that's just that feeling that I got. And over the years, that has just more and more just become a truer statement, just based on how you've treated me and how I've seen you treat other people. I know being a police officer is not the easiest job in the world. I don't have any words to express the gratitude that I have for individuals who step into that field. As a matter of fact, I have a number of friends who I also graduated with that went into that field, and but tremendous respect. You mentioned at one point that you are part of the DARE program and have had an opportunity to see youth grow up from children to adults. Can you give me some perspective on, what are some life situations that you have seen young people encounter where you have seen them come to a fork in the road, where they could choose the right path or the wrong path? And how did you initially meet those young people and say, okay, this was the turning point for them? Because at one point, all of us young people were innocent. All of us were kids. But what were some of those things? Give us some perspective on that.
I think there again, going into schools back in, I think it was 2002, starting there, and also at that point teaching the DARE program. I think it and law enforcement gives us an early intervention of being able to be with these students on a daily basis, being in the schools as a liaison / DARE officer. But I think we set that initial thought process, and as we go through the DARE, we do the essay, and so many essays come out that I pledge to not do drugs and alcohol in the future. And so as the students mature out of that 5th grade level going into middle school, they're introduced to a whole lot more of other students because of the volume of students going into middle school and then ultimately high school.
Right.
But I think they get introduced to the lower level type drugs, what we would consider cigarettes, alcohol, marijuana usage. And so they get that initial peer pressure there. And I still get a lot of the students that say, I revert back to my DARE days and my DARE officer, whether it's me or other officers that they've had. And that kind of puts that message in the back of their mind that, hey, I pledged to do this. So I still believe to this day that we still have a presence of those officers engaging in that, classes in the DARE program.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they transition into high school, the peer pressure becomes so much greater, and they're around, their male and female counterparts in dating or whatever that looks like. So I think ultimately then the peer pressure becomes really heavy, and then they indulge in that. And then as they become going into the teenage to adulthood, through college, through work, it really becomes there. But I think majority of the students that I've encountered over the years through law enforcement have been the early 20s, where they get involved in an OWI, drunk driving type case, or they get in a drug transaction or something like that.
Right.
And so what I tried to do is when I would engage that, especially, it didn't matter if I knew them or not. This is just my practice, was to try to make them aware of the impact of what people, places, and things have on us in life.
Yeah.
And if you engage in that pressure being around those folks, today is a minor situation that you might be able to still recover from. But as you continue to engage that criminal behavior, all of a sudden it becomes jail and prison time.
Right.
And then you end up digging yourself a hole that it takes many years to get out of, because unfortunately, when you become involved in the criminal justice system, that paperwork has a tendency to trail you, especially as you get 1, 2, or 3 different cases that you're involved in.
Wow. Before we began the interview, we engaged in conversation a little bit about, what really gets you going? What are you involved with right now, currently, in your life? And I can imagine that being involved with law enforcement for so long that you never stop being that person in the community that people really need. That special person who was in the uniform, behind the badge, they could turn to you in a different way than they might have some other individuals, just because of who you are and where your faith is. And you shared a little recently, and not to go into too much detail, but in regards to what you just mentioned, the idea of getting, for lack of better terms, getting in too deep, being a part of a system that's tough to get out of. And so can you go a little bit further into kind of what you're helping people with right now?
I think as individuals get themselves in the criminal justice system, it's so hard to sometimes get out of that, because unfortunately they get 2 or 3 different cases going on at any time. They're in 2 or 3 different courts. This one has sentencing. This one is just doing the initial part of it. And then when that sentencing comes down, then there's time tacked on at some point. And so, JC, at some point, some individuals have struggled with navigating life in general.
Yeah.
And for you and I, if we hit a brick wall, we know that if that door is not there to open, or it's shut, we got to figure out a way to go around it. Maybe back up and regroup and figure out where I want my life to go. So that to navigate life and the environmental sometimes of these individuals, the way they grew up,
right,
especially early in life, it's hard to transition out of knowing anything other than that's kind of some of the behavior that I was just raised in. I didn't know any better.
It's normal.
Yeah. So I'm at a point where I'm on a daily basis, I run into individuals that just don't know how to take that next step in life. And whether it's in the criminal justice system, if it's just in a relationship type thing. So what I'm trying to do is just help to provide resources for those individuals.
Yeah.
Because I've always looked at the 3 strike clause: no to little education, a driver's license that's suspended, and then a felony. It'd be hard for any of us to be able to navigate that moving forward to some degree.
Really
and
cool.
Honestly, the majority of those individuals that I've talked to said, "Yeah, but Officer Summers, I sort of did it to myself. I dug my own hole." I believe that if we're going to have a better community and for all of us to thrive and just be good to our neighbor, we need to step up once in a while and just figure out how we can lend that hand.
Yeah.
I'm not a person that wants to give you a hand out. I want to give you a hand up.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. What can I do to help these individuals get back on track in life? What is it that I can help them do to take the next step to say, as a willing partner that wants to do better, that's tired of being tired.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at and what I hope to achieve. You know, my few years here, my wife continues to say that I'll never retire.
Right.
But as long as
Same with my dad.
yeah,
Yep.
but as long as I have what I believe is to be the ability that the good Lord's placed us on my heart and the compassion to want to do. I know people do wrong, and we have to. If you have a situation, you're going to have a consequence, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
But I just want to get people back on track and give them hope. For me, if you've got breath, you have hope, and so that's what I hope to achieve my last few years here out. So.
Yes, sir. Well, I trust and faith and have confidence that you will continue to do that till your very last breath. And I'm thankful to know you. Thankful to be your friend and to work with you. And so, folks, that's a little bit of who Mr. Kevin Summers is. I wish that each and every single person that I bring to you through this media platform, that you could get to know them on some level. I'm just able to give you a little piece of who they are. But I hope enough to give you an idea that when you come across these individuals, that you can feel it enough of yourself to approach them and say hello and shake their hand, because I know they'd be open to that.
You bet.
So
I'd be remiss if I give honor and credit to my parents earlier, but my grandparents, good faith base that provided them that. And ultimately then my high school sweetheart, which has been the cornerstone of my immediate family over the years with my children. But my wife, Tammy, has been a nurse for 40 years.
Wow.
We dated in high school, and then we've been married ever since. And so, with her and I, we have that passion individually and then collectively amongst the family that way too. But tell you what, JC, she's been a great one. So
family is everything.
Oh, you bet it is.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. God bless.